Hi students. I feel like a little bit of explanation is in order right now. This is a real life skill night. So, I probably look like crud. I'll keep it PG. Because all the power is out in our house. It's really hot. I'm sticky. But I wanted to make banana bread for you guys today and show you how to do it. I particularly wanted to make banana bread and show you how to use the box oven to make it. Well, guess what? This is why I have a box oven that works on charcoal. Even though there is no power in my house right now, I can still bake banana bread. I can still come in here in my kitchen, get the stuff out. I had to get a little creative though. Right now I have this night light attached to a water bottle to get some extra light going on. And I have a camping lantern, and my computer does not have much charge, but we're going to make this work. So we've got a couple things all laid out now. I've got an egg. We're going to use that in just a few minutes. I have bananas. The overripe kind are the best. These bananas have some nice browning on them and speckled. You want them to be really soft. They don't have to be, I don't like to eat them when they get all brown and speckled, but they're perfect for banana bread like this. I have 1.5 cups of flour. I have 1 cup of sugar. I have 1 teaspoon, and you'll notice that I measured the teaspoon very flat and level across the top of the measuring spoon of baking soda. I have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now the salt, I use 1/4 teaspoon if I'm using salted butter in the recipe. I use 1/2 teaspoon if I'm using unsalted butter. And then last but not least, I have butter. Now this recipe calls for melted butter. It doesn't have to be totally melted, but because I don't have the stove right now, I had to get creative. I have taken and put a little tea light candle right here. I've taken 2 little tiny drinking glasses, put my butter inside the bowl here, and the candle is underneath, so it's melting and softening that butter so that it'll be ready to go. And then, before you start baking, you should always prep your pan. Instead of using a loaf pan, because I'm baking this in the box oven, I don't want it to be too thick, or else it'll burn on the bottom from the charcoal underneath before it cooks all the way through. So I'm using these Dollar Tree brownie pans. That's what I use, Dollar Tree brownie pan. So I'm going to start by prepping my pan, by spraying it with Pam. You can also use just like butter in the pan, or Crisco, whatever you've got handy. Make sure you grease your pan. Not that you can't eat the banana bread by scraping it out with a spoon if you forget to grease your pan. Don't ask me how I know that. But it's not ideal. So I'm going to grease this pan, and I'm going to set it aside until I get my mixture put together. So now I've got my bananas in the bowl. They're all peeled. I'm going to use my favorite tool for making banana bread, which is a fork, to mash these bananas up until they're almost like a liquid. So I need to work as fast as I can before the computer goes dead. But you get the idea. Mash, 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 mash. You gotta love when you want something and maybe not everything works out the way you want it to work. You just gotta make it work. Now, if I had 6 of these old bananas, these nice, ripe, soft bananas, I could double this recipe. And Mrs. Coots is actually going to create a video on doubling a recipe for you, so you can see how that works. Because sometimes I might want to make 2 of these. I actually have 6 box ovens, so I could do that. Okay, now I've got my bananas all mashed. I'm going to crack my egg in here. Now, if you're not very good with cracking eggs, I suggest you crack it into another dish and then pour it into here. That way, if you accidentally get shells in it, they don't get into your banana bread. It's not ruined. I'm going to mix that egg in really well. Again, my fork is my favorite tool in this. Then I will add in my sugar next. Again, this was a cup of sugar. I like to use the Zolka unbleached sugar, but it doesn't matter what kind of sugar you use. And you're going to mix it just until it's all stirred in there. Now we're going to add in our salt and our baking powder. I'm sorry, this was baking soda, not baking powder. And we're going to mix those in real well. Now you got to work pretty quickly once you put the baking soda in there, because the chemical reaction is going to start happening that makes the banana bread rise eventually. Oh, look, my butter is getting really nice and melty. It's still still got some solid pieces in here, but that's okay. I'm going to kind of mix it up to get as many of those big pieces to be soft and squishy as possible. And then I'm going to dump this in. This was 1/4 cup of mostly melted butter. Usually if I'm doing this and I actually have electricity, it would be all the way melted butter. So I'm going to make sure those butter lumps get mixed up as much as possible. I don't want liquidy spots in my bread. And then last but not least, I'm going to add my 1.5 cups of flour and mix that in. I got to be a little more careful now that I got my flour in here. And this is what's called a quick bread. And what's really important about quick breads is that you not overmix them. You want to mix them just until your flour is all incorporated, not a moment more. If you mix too much, it's going to end up making your banana bread tough, and then it won't taste as good. It'll be kind of gummy and chewy. So I just want to make sure I get it just all mixed in there. Because of the bananas, you might see a little bit of lumpiness. That's okay. That is not going to hurt your banana bread. So let me clean up as I'm going here. And now I'm going to take my pan that I greased ahead of time, and I'm going to pour all this banana bread mixture in the pan. If you were baking this in the oven, you would bake it at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes if it were in one of these brownie pans. If you have a thicker pan that you're baking it in, you'll need to bake it a little longer. In my box oven, which bakes a little hotter, it ends up being about 400 degrees with 8 briquettes in it, 8 charcoal briquettes. I need to have it only bake for about 25 minutes. Let me get this light so you can kind of see what you've got here, that it's just all nice and smooth in the pan and ready to go in the oven. Again, if you were baking in the regular oven, 350 is about what it would take for 35 minutes. I'm going to go outside. I don't have the camera out there today, so I'm going to go outside, place it in the box oven, and we'll be back so that you can see how this all turned out in the end. I'll move the camera in the meantime. So we're back to our box oven. It's ready to go. When I take the lid off, I can see that I've got some nice, beautiful brown banana bread. It doesn't get as brown on the very, very top when you use the box oven. If you wanted to test and see if this bread was done, you could poke a toothpick down in the middle, or you can touch it with your finger lightly, and it should just barely dent but still feel firm for banana bread. Let me take it out. So if you look in the bottom of this box oven, it has charcoal briquettes down here underneath a grate that I can lift up and down. This is all built with Dollar Tree parts, and on Monday I'm going to put the plans on my YouTube channel with a quick video on how to build these. And when I put things in the box oven, the one thing you want to be careful about though is when I place the lid on top, I barely place it on top. I don't put it on there hard because that would cause the charcoal to be smothered and go out. But that's it. I have banana bread now.